Billy was young. He wanted to be a gunfighter in the Old West. He decided instead of doing it the way all the other gunfighters were doing it, he'd go his own way, figure out his own way of doing it, the way he felt was best. Instead of a straight side draw, he used a cross side draw, and he learned how to do it that way. Instead of waiting for the ding of the clock tower in the morning, he paid attention to what time the gunfights began and paid attention to where the sun was in the sky at the time of the firing. And that was when he learned where the sun was in the sky, he would know it was time to shoot. He went to the saloon, angered the wrong person, ended up in a duel. He stepped out in the street. It was time to fire. Boom. There he was, dead in the street. He had done it uniquely. He had practiced a long time. He was uniquely or ununiquely dead. That's what Christian deconstructionism is like. If you're not doing it the way others have done it, or the way it is defined, then what are you doing? Obviously, most deconstructionists end up not being called Christians at all. They're just secularists with extra steps. The problem is, where does it stop? Where do you deconstruct to? Do you deconstruct everything? How do you rebuild it? What do you build it with? It's all well and good to say, well, this house is old. Let me cut it up and rebuild the house with new materials. First of all, you have to have a place to get the new materials from, and there has to actually be new material to build with. Again, this is the problem of deconstructionism, because it ends up, I don't know if you saw, but I did a video before, sorry. I did a video before on the Billy Carson thing, and I mentioned this about a lot of those hidden knowledge type people. They take a lot from a lot of sources and jam it together, and they end up with something that isn't particularly systematic. And that's the problem of deconstructionism, because where's the systematic belief? Where is the answers to the questions? Obviously, with deconstruction, it's just what you think is considered or dealt with in the same way and as of similar value to truth, whether it is or not. And that's problematic. So basically, a person who deconstructs must use their own conscience to figure out what is, quote unquote, their truth. And where do they get it from? Where do they seek what to build with? And that's the big question, isn't it? If they're only using their own conscience, then they're using the culture in which they live in to rebuild. Is that what they use? What do they use? They use what feels good to them? Is that what they use? Is that a valid means for them to reconstruct their own systems of belief? Don't get me wrong. I absolutely believe that Christian deconstruction is a smart way to reevaluate modern practice. I don't believe that I'm doing Christianity the way that the apostles did Christianity. And I believe there's reasons for that, but we have to go back to what they were doing, and we have to look at it, and we have to see, does what I'm doing, is that up to snuff? Is that up to the same level as what they did? Is it adequate, at least? And so deconstructionism has a place. It can root out Judaizing. It can rule out extra rules that have been added over time that don't really need to be in Christianity. It can rule out modern invention. It can rule out new theology, new in a historical sense, as in not ancient, but still, potentially to us hundreds of years old. It can rule out a lot of things, but it still has this kernel of what it actually means to be a Christian. You can't deconstruct and wipe away the whole structure and then say, okay, now I'm going to build the house. If you bulldoze the house, you're not rebuilding the house, you're building a different house. So that's where I'm at least, looking at it, is saying, okay, I'm fine with Christian deconstruction because the fundamental premise of, well, let's question our beliefs is fine. It's perfectly fine to question what you believe. But you have to start somewhere. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to question absolutely everything. Nothing is forbidden. Nothing is untrue. Because that's not how reality works. Like, if you say, okay, I'm going to jump off a roof and question whether gravity is true or not, that's not really how you do it. You drop an apple out of a tree. The apple falls out of the tree. You don't jump out of the tree to determine whether gravity is true or not, because the result is too bad, too negative. And so you have to take deconstructive steps backwards. You have to cut small things and inspect small things and then continue to move backward. If you can look at a small thing and you can't really say, well, should this be here or should this not be here? Then you have to go back a little further and you go, well, okay, should this broader thing be here or not be here? And then you work your way backwards. And eventually for Christianity, you get to the resurrection and so on. And then you can deconstruct that. And then you can even go past that. You can say, okay, let's say I'm not sure whether Jesus resurrected or not. Well, what about the Old Testament prophets? Can I look at them and say, this is clearly made up. This is not. This doesn't make. It's internally incoherent. It doesn't make sense in itself. It's contradictory. This kind of stuff can lead you to a right conclusion of what is true or not. But what you can't do is, as I said, destroy the whole house and try to rebuild. You can, however, remodel. Remodel deconstruction makes sense to me. But it has to be structured. It has to have these rules of behavior and how you handle it. It can't just be, well, the standard is I look at this and I don't really like that. It kind of gives me this, so I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to do something else. You can, but how can you call yourself a Christian and do that? I don't believe you can. I think you have to look at each individual thing and determine, was this how it has been done? Is this how it has been understood? Is the way I'm looking at it, even if I'm confirming that I believe a certain thing, am I believing it for the same sort of reasons, with those same sort of thinking as people who came before? People who lived before you were not stupid. They were human beings. They had as much time of life as you, as much think time and as much compute in their head as you do. So, considering just them as a source is not automatically, oh, they're, you know, they're just ignorant shepherds. What do they know, about life or living? Not like they did, decades of it themselves, just alone, and had a greater respect for the people who came before them. We are standing on the shoulders of giants. Full deconstruction is not systematic. It doesn't make sense. So why are we doing it? We need to give it some structure. And we do need to do it. We do need to deconstruct everything we believe in order to either confirm or deconfirm what we're doing. That does not mean that we, bulldoze the whole house and then try to figure out from the rubble what makes a house. That's not how you do it. So this video is specifically to make this point, that there has to be a systematic way in which we analyze the past, analyze what we believe, analyze what we're thinking and how we're thinking, and what our justifications are for the things that we believe. And I sincerely hope this gave you some value, and have a great week.